Right, guys, we are going to go live. Jeremy Hartman. Jeremy was one of the speakers at Underground Strength Con. I got my notebook ready. We're going to talk about in-season strength training. It's the beginning of winter sports this week. Some are starting next week, but for the most, it's this week. So, ready to go. Jeremy will be hopping on in a second. And it's crazy. I look back on my YouTube, how many times I have posted videos of in-season strength training and the importance of in-season strength training. And it's wild that to this day, we still have athletes and their parents who stop training in season and will train either 9 months of the off season, or you have vice versa. Jeremy's hopping in, so let's go. And we're going to turn the volume up. There we go. All right, Jeremy should hop in. There we go. Hey, brother.
Hey, what's going on, man?
All right, buddy. So I'm thinking a great topic today, Jeremy. It is the beginning of winter sports. So fall sports ended if they made it into playoffs. And it's the first week. So what I was saying is, for a minute before you hopped on, I said, it's crazy. I'll go on my YouTube channel and just use the search button and type in season. And I've got videos from like 2010, 2009, 2008, talking about the importance of it. And we have kind of these two schools, right? We have, you and I always say, our best athletes train year round. Yep. So we're gonna get into some training methods for the in season. But what's interesting is we will see athletes, they might train with us in the off season, then they always stop in season. It's usually the parents that are like, yes. They say, I'm afraid it's too much. And so I say, hey, didn't you grow up in the 80s when we rode our bike for 12 hours a day, 70 days in a row? And then I'm like, they're not going to overtrain. And then I see at my high school, kids don't show up at all until it's part of their practice schedule. So they have this 9 months of no work. So you and I discuss this often, but let's give people maybe like a landscape view of what you have going on with training in-season athletes now. I know some of them are like a hybrid. They're with you online, and then they come and see you once every couple weeks. Oh, I think I froze Jeremy there for a second. Hold on one second. Jeremy, you froze on me. Let's see if that works. Or, Jeremy, what we're going to try to do is, Jeremy, if you could hear this, exit and then try hopping back on. Let's see if that works. Sorry, guys. Technical issues. Let me see if I could add Jeremy. Yes, we're going to try to record it. So come back. I'll post it. Let me see. Hold on one second. Jeremy Hartman. It could have froze. There we go. Hey, buddy.
All right, we're good, man.
We froze a little bit. So, Jeremy, can you give a little layout of maybe what are your best athletes doing, even including the kids that do hybrid training with you online and then they see you every couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean,
in person?
You said it right. The best kids are the ones that train with year-round with us. That whole thing about I'm worried about my kids getting too busy right now. You got to find a way to train. You know, I got athletes that come here at 7:30 at night, Zach, after practice. You know, they've showered, got a little bit of something to eat or had a snack on the way over here. And we still get a good hour's worth of training in no matter what. You know, I got guys that, whatever wrestling season is going on right now, they had a match on Wednesday. They got a match on Saturday, so they came in Monday. We had a good workout. Tuesday, they're cutting a little bit of weight. They came in for 45 minutes. We still got a little workout, some assistance work. Wednesday, they went out and competed. Back in Thursday, we trained very hard. Friday, I gave them a day off because they had to get going early for a tournament they had to travel to, but they're doing just fine. I mean, I just told you one of my kids, Silas Stitz, he just signed a Division I scholarship to Kent State. He went out and teched a kid who's number 5th in the state. Silas is ranked number 4 in the state. And Silas went and worked out on Monday, had a light workout on Tuesday, teched the kid 15-0 on Wednesday, back in the gym on Thursday. I gave him Friday off because he had to travel for a big tournament. And, you know, he's going to go out there and compete on Saturday. He'll be right back in the gym with me on Monday. So, I mean, I train those guys year-round. Yeah, we do work around stuff, you know, when they have meets, or especially if they're cutting weight for some of those guys in season. But we're going to, hey, we're picking out these dates. My best athletes, hey, coach, I got this date here. What I'm thinking I should come in these days. Those are the best ones, and those are the supportive parents or the parents that kind of stay out a little bit. Like, hey, I know Hartman's good. Like, you're good with him. They're old enough now, and they're getting in here and training with me. The hybrid ones, those are the ones that sometimes, like I said, they can come in and train, but they're training year-round too. It just depends on their schedule with everything, but they'll come in. I got a couple kids right now that are in training for St. Ed's Wrestling in Cleveland, Ohio. So again, they tell me when they have meets coming up. I know when they're cutting weight. Like, hey, we're training hard Monday and Tuesday. We're going to get a good one in like Wednesday, a light one in Thursday, and then they're going to compete, all day Saturday and Sunday. So we just work around their schedule, whatever we need to, and we're getting our training in no matter what, man.
Yeah, I see Bryce Beal commenting, and it made me think that I will adjust the training. You mentioned St. Ed's. So if I know an athlete is coming from a school that is having tough practices, then I'll adjust the training even more so for that athlete. And then we're just listening to our athletes. So I don't know how it is everywhere else. Here's my guy, Mikey Batista, one of the best in the country. He's at Blair. Um, I listen to our kids, and it could be a Jersey thing. The first 2 weeks, they're like, oh, the coach wants us to get in shape. So all we're doing is running. And I think to myself, get in shape. Like, if you're in shape all season, you're not going to obviously be in peak condition. But I tell coaches, running is for the cross country team. You could do sprints, you could do interval training, but if you want your guys in wrestling shape, then you need to drill, you need to wrestle, and you need to have a high foundation of strength, right? You and I know this. So let's break down. Can you give a sample workout? Like, what's the one kid's name again that's ranked 4th in the state?
Yeah, Silas Stitz right now, ranked 4th in the
What's
state
a sample
in Indiana.
recent workout you did with him to get people an understanding of like volume and exercise
Yeah.
selection?
Monday with his training cycle right now, he wasn't cutting a lot of weight. It's Thanksgiving break, so he's eating a little more. He's got a lot of less stress. So I actually trained him pretty heavy on Monday because he doesn't have school, Zach. He doesn't have all these other outside stressors. He got practice in early in the day. He came with me. I said, hey, I want a 4-hour break in. So he came in, for my 4 o'clock session that day, and he was rested and ready to go. So we trained him heavy. We trained him hard. We hit some heavy triples, some heavy doubles that day, actually. Again, like you said, listening to your athletes, he was looking good, feeling good. Like, he was rested up. He'd eaten well, didn't have much stress going on. And then I beat him up on his assistance work afterwards. So we did a little bit of total body because I'm like, hey, Tuesday we're going to take it a little bit lighter because you're competing against that number 5th kid in the state on Wednesday. So I said Monday we went hard. We trained heavy squats, we trained heavy benches, got some deadlifts in, very heavy pull-ups, some heavy ab work. I beat him up we were in there for about a good hour and 15 minutes that day. Tuesday he came in, that was more assistance work. So we came in and just kind of did like all the filler stuff. We did a little bit of light hamstring work. They were a little bit sore from the day before. Had him do some higher rep dumbbell benches just to get some blood flow in the upper body on there. We did some light dips over there. Had him just do a little more ab work. That's one of his weaknesses, and he knows that. A little bit upper back work. I stretched him out a little bit, and he was done probably in an hour total from start to finish, even with the stretch and everything. Wednesday, he went out, tech followed the kid, and number one thing he said to me, Zach, when we got done, because I talked to him and his dad, he goes, Coach, I felt so strong against the kid, and that's the kid that beat me last year at semi-state. So Silas was like 1-1 against this kid, but for him to go out and tech that kid who beat him last year, and for him to come and say, I simply felt stronger than that kid, that is a strength coach. That's what I want to hear coming from my athletes.
You and I had this conversation, but the people listened didn't. I went to watch the Princeton Open College Wrestling Tournament, which was 3 weeks ago. And certainly you see some kids are better than others technique-wise. But guess who I saw winning matches? Strong wrestlers. Guys that could lift people, guys that could get in on a takedown, be in maybe not such a great position, finish because they're strong. They were in better shape. And it was just a reminder, like, no matter what level you're at, you must be strong. And the reminder to me is Monday, you're talking about training Silas, like, he's doing some pretty good volume work, which is only possible when an athlete is dialed in with nutrition. And so if they're not eating, they have no energy in the tank. And so if I was still coaching wrestling, I used to coach wrestling, I would tell the kids whatever I would tell my son to do. And what would I tell my son in season? You need to be able to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and be able to eat that all year round. And my preference is to be a little under a weight class. So I always tell guys, When do you feel good? When you starve or when you have a good meal, right? You and I go out to dinner, we're in a good mood. So I tell them, being able to eat a lot of healthy food, it's a emotional de-stressor. It puts you in a good mood. And I think that's crucial, not just for the recovery, but as you know, the mindset. We see a lot of athletes just kind of like, oh, I'm burnt out. And when they're burnt out, I just say, well, it's because you're training the wrong way. You're starving yourself. You're doing too much of the wrong stuff. And that leads to emotional burnout, which leads to physical burnout.
Yep. Two things on that, Zach. We talked about Silas this year about moving up, so he moved up to the 157-pound weight class, and he knows after the last couple of years of cutting. And last year we didn't cut that much. We cut just enough where it didn't affect strength too much. And he had a choice. He could have gone down to the 150 class or 157 out here in Indiana, and we both decided, boom, we're going up to 157. I mean, he got up to the 160s. You know, he cuts only a couple pounds right now, but like you said, Zach, I was able to put him through a great workout on Monday. He was able to recover from that workout because, like you just said, he was able to eat a little bit still. The only thing he had to do was really watch dinner and stuff Tuesday night and Wednesday morning when he had to, wake up and weigh in with everything. But he's feeling great at this upper weight class. And what he just told me was the number one thing is I felt stronger against that kid who beat me last year. Lance Palmer, a four-time All-American at Ohio State University, four-time state champion in Ohio. He's got a great documentary from when he was in high school.
Yes.
If you look at him, the number one thing his dad said in there, he was like eating like a piece of cake or something like
Yes.
that. It was Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was a birthday, I think it was. And his dad's like, listen, he's going to go burn it off. He goes, the kid's working out 2 to 3 times a day. He goes, I can feed my kid this stuff because he's going to go burn it off later, so let him have it. And that was during the season. And four-time state champ in Ohio, Ironman champion, four-time All-American at Ohio State. Like, can't argue with those guys, and he knew that early on.
Yes. I saw that. You told me about that documentary. Lance is also, you'll see him on like Westside Barbell podcast, MMA fighter. You can't go wrong with eating properly. And so I hope, of course, parents are watching and listening to this. Every day, my son, for breakfast, it's eggs or egg and ham omelet. Then it's baked potatoes that I slice up. I put them in the frying pan with a little avocado oil, piece of toast with butter. You've got to feed the beast if you want them to get strong. I want to go segue into this next topic, something that, a athlete said to me. And I always look back, when I was younger, I always say I didn't have the wisdom to listen to my coaches. My coaches also didn't have the wisdom with strength training. But ironically, people say, oh, Zach, those athletes are so lucky to train with you at the high school. It's free. It's right there. And I say, well, ironically, there's a ton of athletes who don't want to train with me. Why? Well, I tell them everything they need to do that's harder. Squat all the way down. Stop missing reps on your bench press. And then I'll have an athlete say, I don't really like to train legs. I just like to do upper and this and that. The message for kids out there is, the best athletes I've ever worked with are coachable. And you and I have these conversations. And whenever you tell me about these kids that are winning, it's real simple. They just keep showing up. They follow through on nutrition. And they never say, Coach, I don't like to do squats. I don't like to do this. They do whatever it takes to get better. So let's share some of your traits that you feel stand out for your most successful athletes, whatever sport they are, because you train tennis players, volleyball players, football players. What are the traits that you feel stand out that make a champion a champion?
Yeah, I'll give you number one example. Just when she got home, Sophia Sable right now, she's playing D1 beach volleyball. She's only 5'7". She's one of the shortest girls out there. She built herself and her scholarship in the weight room. She had to become faster. She had to become stronger, more injury resilient. She had to jump higher. Everything had to come because her dad and I talked when she first came in as a 10th grader, and we all sat down and discussed, like, you're not getting any taller. This is the key if you want some. Her dad's a great basketball coach. His team took second in the state. Like, he's legit and he knows that. So Zach, when she came home, I think she got home on Sunday, for Thanksgiving break. She was right in the weight room with me on Monday. And we talked. She goes, I'm like, we talked about, what she'd been doing, what she'd been working on, and, like how she'd been going in extra, Zach. She's going in with the football strength conditioning staff along with her required volleyball stuff because she knew she wasn't getting enough. She goes, these other girls, I'm not as talented as them. I have to put in the extra work. So she goes in and does a few extra things with those guys. But she was in there Monday with me. And like you just said, she wasn't saying, I don't want to do this. So I was like, well, let's take a look. Let me see where your squat's at, like you just said about squatting to depth. And she goes, hey, whatever you think I need to work on. She goes, I do feel like this has gone down a little bit, or I do on this. There was no like, oh, I want to train legs, or I want to do this, or can I just do some ab work? No, she goes, whatever you think I need to work on. So I took a look at her squat, and I was able to evaluate a bunch of stuff from there. Her mobility was down a little bit, so we practiced pause squatting, getting in the bottom and coming up from that position. I had her do some pin squats where she'd come down, pause on the pins, and explode up. I got that from the Swiss convention. I was working with the Dutch national volleyball team coach, and we talked a lot about that for those guys. She was leaning over a lot in her squats. We had to do a lot of upper back work on that area. Tuesday, we came in right back at it. We did mostly upper body on that day. I evaluated her bench press. Her shoulder strength, we definitely did a lot of work on that, a lot of side delt raises, more rear delt raises, and upper back work, even on that day. From there, I gave her a lot of ab work too. That's something that's always helped her stability out with everything. So it was just a constant evaluation. But she was in there, she was hungry. We talked about her supplements, Zach. We talked about her eating schedule, just her plan. She goes, hey, I got to travel these days. And she goes, but I'll be back to work out these other days on top of that. And then she goes, then I'll be back in 2 weeks for Christmas break. Like, the girl's got her stuff down pat.
What's some of the, you mentioned upper back, side raises, rear delts. What else do you like for upper back?
Well, for her right now, she's not playing a lot of volleyball, so I can hammer the volume on her shoulders. So during the season, I would be cautious about that. I still get a lot of rear delt work, and you got to keep them healthy. But right now, it's heavy shrugs for her, heavy pulls, heavy dumbbell work, heavy reverse flies. I had her doing a lot of just X's and Y's and stuff with bands and everything, just enough to put a lot of volume, because those are postural muscles, and you got to beat those up with high volume. I mean, they're used to holding posture up every day. They don't respond to 5 reps and less. They're posture muscles. You got to beat them down with a lot of reps, a lot of sets on there. That's the only way to get those areas stronger and grow more.
What do you like, the overhead press, or does it depend on who you're working with?
Yeah, off season she'll do a lot of overhead pressing, again, because I want to strengthen those shoulders up, because I know they're going to get tore up when she gets in the season, and she is hitting every single day, serving every single day, just back and forth with the routines, the drills. Like, her coach puts her through very tough workouts. So off season, yes, a ton of overhead presses. I will beat her front delts up a lot more during that time, side delts and rear delts. And then during the season, Zach, as long as we get our bench presses in, because if your bench press goes up, your overhead press will go up. And it's got a shorter range of motion on her shoulders. So if she's playing a lot, I will take the overhead press out and just do some side raises, some rear raises, just to keep those happy and healthy. Off season, ton of shoulders, because I want that body armor on there for when she goes to play during in season.
Yeah, reminds me of some of like the older West Side Barbell videos, like seeing Mike Ruggiero. You remember him?
Oh yeah, I squatted with Mike and Chuck my first time down there.
Oh my God. So I remember seeing a video of Mike doing just one arm side raises, kind of one arm like lean away presses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see, like, we've gotten, or coaches have gotten away from that. When I watch training, I don't see enough accessory work to build the body armor. And so sometimes I feel like the high school athletes who don't have enough muscle, they almost need more of that accessory work to body build, to build them up, to be able to have, like, for example, if you want to squat, a lot of people think legs, legs, legs. You and I know that if your back is weak, they're going to just fold over when they squat. So I look at bodybuilding the back muscles. You mentioned also same thing with like your wrestlers, like kind of having like a day of the main lifts, and then your next day is accessory work. Is that a normal split, Jeremy, when you're training athletes, or no?
No, it was just when he came in, he saw this, and this again, when good communication about, he goes, hey, I got a tough match on Wednesday. I really want to do good against this kid. It's not like we had, hey, this is going to be an easy one. We're going to train hard. Monday and Tuesday. I said, okay, Sauce. I'm like, here's my plan then. We want to do good against this kid. We're not cutting a lot of weight. I want a heavy workout on Monday, and I want you in, 4 hours after your wrestling practice, because he could do it because he had Monday off from school. I said, we're going to beat you up total body on this day. Tuesday is going to be a recovery with, moderate assistance work. And I said, then you're going to feel great on Wednesday because you're not cutting a lot of weight. So he's got a lot more room to recover. If he was cutting a lot of weight, Zach, I wouldn't have pushed that much volume and that much intensity on him. But then Tuesday, yeah, he was feeling good. He goes, yeah, I'm a little sore. And, he goes, my hamstrings or something like that. I'm okay, let's put some of this in there. Whatever exercise got you sore, Zach, will also get you unsore. Instead of sitting there stretching and everything, yes. Do a lighter day on that. Yeah, so that's why we just did some dumbbell benching and a few, light squats and stuff, because he said he was sore back there. And by the end, I stretched him out a little bit too. He goes through his Dick Hartzell band resisted stretching just for 10 minutes. It was more of a mental state. He gets done. He goes, yeah, I feel good. Yeah. I'm ready to go, beat the heck out of this kid on Wednesday.
For the people listening, just Google Dick Hartzell, go on YouTube, find his old videos.
Yep.
He's in the old West Side videos. So I came across Dick Hartzell's work in those early 2000s. I know he mentored you and coached you. We actually did that I put up a band and did some shoulder traction and pec and bicep stretches with the band for our adult group yesterday morning. And so learning that assistance work is very important for athletes, for muscle building. And then for a adult, and even our buddy Jesse Ackerman says when he's training football players in the NFL, the older guys, and older in the NFL means you're in your late 20s, early 30s. He said, I front load them with the accessory work. They get a real big pump, and then it limits a little bit of the weight on the main lift. He's like, but they feel much better, and that is a mental advantage. And you talk about the traits of your elite athletes. You know, I always tell kids, if I say for you to do it, I'll tell it to my kids. So yesterday during Thanksgiving, we had a big lunch, a big family lunch. Took my family, my wife's family, my parents out for a big brunch type lunch. Then we had people over our house. So we ate like crazy. My son and daughter went to my gym at 9 p.m. at night last night and trained. And my daughter this morning, I drove them to the airport at 6:30 to Florida, and she's training right now. So she landed. I got connected with a friend whose daughter also plays tennis, and they're training. And so why can she train at 9 at night, hop on an airplane, train again? Because you're in shape, and you do it all year. And Louis would always say, GPP, get in shape. People didn't really understood what that means, Jeremy. I think they felt get in shape meant, can I run? Can I go on a treadmill for 20 minutes? Can I go on an elliptical? What he meant is, what is your like physical capacity and your ability to recover? And that comes from a lot of sleds, a lot of carries, a lot of calisthenics, and circuit work with the assistance work. So all that stuff you're talking about makes your body, you know, I guess like in shape to me is you're durable. And so I think kids today that are not succeeding, they need to look at their work ethic. You know, you and I keep mentioning how much work these elite athletes are doing, and also their attitude. You know, if you are only doing what you like, what you want, and you don't, you know, my legs are sore, I'm only going to stretch. No, your legs are sore. Get on the sled, do carries, do reverse hypers. And so the work ethic and the commitment has to be there. I mean, every time you and I talk, you know what I'm reminded of? Do more, more volume, do more work.
Yeah. I'll give you another great example. We had Caleb Williams, who was he's a tremendous coach right now, but he was the greatest 148 pounder of all time. 148 pounds with me, drug free. He squatted 722 at 148. World champion powerlifter. And then he switched over to Olympic weightlifting. And he was one of our best Olympic weightlifters. In Olympic weightlifting, there's only one federation, USA Weightlifting.
Yep.
He set the all-time American record in the clean and jerk, and I believe he had it for the total too. So he's number one powerlifter, switched over to number one weightlifter. And when I talked to Caleb, he's training with Zygmunt, who was one part of the Polish team, Zach. You remember the old Polish Olympic weightlifting videos?
Yes, I love those.
Yeah. Zygmunt told him, who's our USA coach at the time, he goes, like, Caleb was always training in a fatigue state, and that's what Zygmunt wanted. And people are always like, well, if you're in a fatigue state or you should back. He always wanted, Caleb's like, I'm always training like 10% of what I could have. He goes, you know, and he goes, that's what his coach was instilling him. Like, you got to be able to train under certain conditions, because when you're competing at a high level, nothing's going to be under the conditions you want. And year round, it was never in a fatigue state where he was going to get injured, you know, where he put himself in bad positions. But he was like always like in a fatigue state until he got into his competition prep phase. And then when he go out and compete, and he would go out there and smash PRs at the competition. So people don't realize this, because we hear, Zach, it drives me nuts. Recovery. Yes, it is about that. But you also got to learn to beat your body down. It's got to learn how to recover. And you have to learn to train it and compete in fatigue states. That includes in the weight room, as long as you're not pushing them where, like, you know, I get a rounded back or something because I'm killing them on squats. But they got to learn, they're athletes, that you're going to be training in a fatigue state, and you got to get through it.
Somebody commented on, I repost some videos. I think it was the reposting of Werner Gunther, that was the 80s Swedish thrower. And some guy commented, he goes, today we have more sports scientists than ever before. We have more technology than ever before. We have more XYZ. He goes, we also have more pussies than ever before. And I was laughing. I was like, shit, he's right. We have all this science and all this data. And what I think that we're seeing is the elite are just getting more elite. And then there's no middle ground. It's just, it's not like that sports science is really making them much better. they were always going to be elite. They just kind of leaned into it more. And, you know, the majority of people I'm going to work with training from my private facility in a high school, the majority are average. And so the way to get out of average, get out of that realm, is to train and eat and live a lifestyle like you are being elite. And that means eating more often, training properly on a more frequent basis, right? Some kids will say to me, I don't know why I'm not training with you anymore. And I say, listen, I've gone into a retro fitness to pick up a protein shake. Everybody's sitting around on their phone. So there's no way like you're there getting more work done than in a place where we're attacking the weights. And simply as simple as, Jeremy, sleds and carries. I feel like those are so, these simple strongman GPP drills, but nobody's doing that when they're at retro. Even though retro has sleds and this and that, there's just too much machine stuff. And this is what always hits me. I saw, you sent me a video of one of your guys doing extensions with the hundreds in each hand.
Oh, Braden, yep.
Well, at my school, we have like a multi-station with lap pull, cable row, tricep pushdowns. I could do over 100 reps of tricep pushdowns, and I don't feel like I'm getting any strength benefit at all. I feel it with bands, but on a cable machine, I could do 100 reps, even more, and I don't feel like it has any sort of carryover or transfer of training to benching, pressing, and just feeling powerful. And so, you know, I understand there's certain machines we could use that help us, but I just feel like some of that stuff is just pump up work. It doesn't really transfer.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. That guy I sent you was Braden Gulch. You know, Braden's looking at a 672-pound bench press, and that was one thing we've been pushing him on. If you notice, if you've any of my followers, like if you watch his bench press, especially his lockouts lately, they've gotten better and better and better. And part of his stuff is his tricep strength. You know, no matter how tired he's done after benching heavy weights, like we have got to pound the accessories. And I sent you the video I'm doing the 100-pound tricep rollbacks, an old Louis Simmons one from the 1990s, early 2000s. I mean, that's still ours. And he's still not there. I said, you got to be pushing those up to 110s if you really want to lock the weights out here. And he goes, okay. He goes, I'll get back to work right away. And we're, you know, then he got about 3 weeks left, and we really got to push that hard because his lockout's a weak part of his bench press. And he knows that. So he's hammering those just as much as he's hammering his lifts. He's hammering that assistance work. That's his next priority right after the bench press. And it's coming in a lot nicer because he goes, again, he's telling me, and I see it, I'm feeling better on my lockouts. My lockouts are better. I'm more confident. We're going to set a good PR at the meet coming up.
You're younger, you need to push the assistance lift. So there's a question here from Atapian. Here, I can't see if it's a he or she. Hey, what if you load the push down super heavy? I can push down our stack at the high school and do multiple sets of, 12 to 15. But my bench doesn't feel more powerful until my extensions get strong, my presses get strong, my bent over rowing gets strong, dips. And so it's pump up work. And I don't feel like it builds me. And that's why I constantly have to tell high school kids, today, your arm work is free weights only. And same thing, like today I trained a 10 a.m. group at the underground, and they had to get arms. And I said, it cannot be bands. We're not setting up all the bands for your push down. If you want to do triceps, you have to go overhead dumbbells or lying extensions. Yep. And I mean, listen, that's just the shit that works. It's been proven to work. The guys in prison don't have cable machines and all this shit. And I look back to those early days of Westside. Dave Tate told me, he's like, there wasn't a lot of options for variety. He's like, so leg day was box squat, reverse hyper, and glute ham raise. He's like, but we always got stronger. And so when you're just forced to get strong, you're better. So Atapian says, I have your Gladiator project, 4-day power bodybuilding split. So I have a program, Jeremy, where I copied my bodybuilding training methods, but when I started getting stronger training at Diamond Gym. And the reason why I got stronger and bigger and like thicker there is those bodybuilders were doing power bodybuilding. Why? Because the owner, John Kemper, was a golden era guy. So I remember seeing bodybuilders incline benching 3 plates, benching 4 plates, squatting 5 plates was not odd. You also saw bodybuilders doing rack pulls in the old York isometric rack. I saw bodybuilders doing not hang clean, but a hang muscle clean. So it was an upright row, punch the arms under. And so I remember doing that on the regular. So if I wanted to military press, I started putting the bar on the floor and I made myself do a clean before I pressed. And my upper back and shoulders gained a crap ton of size. And so what did those guys do? They trained heavy and they had a very different looking physique, especially when like the drugs were so basic back then. Today, like I've seen bodybuilders, they could win the Mr. Olympia and they're doing like bent over rows with 95 pounds. It's like, bro,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Chemical warfare. So load of cobbler saying, you know, what about some Monson skull crushers? Yeah, that guy, he was a one of the Bloods or the Crips, Craig Monson, you know,
Yep.
skull crushers, heavy. And I saw all that stuff. You know, Diamond Gyms used to have their own bodybuilding show, Jeremy. But you know what else they did? They had a curl contest. And so I saw guys curl 295 with like a little nudge. And so why did so many bodybuilders there have 20-inch arms? They were fucking strong.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
forced the body to grow.
Some of my best powerlifters, when we talk about that, I keep them athletic in the off season. And what athletic is, we're doing athletic movements when they get done. Even my bigger guys, Jared, you know, he just took second in the world, squatted over, you know, well, he squatted 1,014, got it turned down. But my 1,000-pound squatter, like right now, he's doing single leg work. He's doing bodybuilding stuff in there because he just got done with Worlds. We don't have another competition until August. Like, this is some of the stuff I got. He's still squatting, benching, deadlifting, but we switched it up and we put the lifts down here and we put the assistance work and athletic work up here. And that's how I've kept him healthy for over 10 years. Because a lot of big guys don't last in the sport. My guy's doing that part, and that's a big part of it. Jim Wendler, as far as athletics, what does he say? He says, athletic the lower, bodybuild the upper. So you hear it with competitive lifters, you hear it with athletes as well. You're hearing it even with the bodybuilders. It's you know, almost common sense, common language of what it takes and what you need to do to get serious. Zach, you just mentioned about all the assistance work. I told you, my coach for the first 3 years, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it was nothing but carries, pull-up work, wrestling, calisthenic work. The sled you saw that he built, you know, he was you know, had the mechanic shop and everything. All that stuff was for 3 years. And I told you, when I got into high school, I didn't understand as a 14-year-old kid at the time why when I hit the barbell lifts, everything was shooting up, and all my other friends were making their normal gains as a young kid, but mine were shooting up over here. And I was like, well, this is what I've done for the last 3 years, and everything shot up. I didn't have any injuries. You know, my friends benching multiple times a week, hurting their shoulders, and it was just, that stuff is so important, and it still needs to be important. Even today, even my elite level athletes, even my elite level lifters, they're still doing some carries, they're still doing some farmer walks, they're still doing sled work for GPP work.
It's you got me thinking of this, Jeremy. I'm going to be doing a private at 3 p.m. with one of the kids. I've trained his 2 older brothers. His one brother was a 2-time state champ, then senior year took 2nd. And there, you know, you're talking about certain things just always work. When you get away from either the environment or the training methods that always work, you will lose those things. So sometimes people forget what got them there. It's like Rocky 3. Apollo said, we got to get you back to where it all started. We have to get you out of, you know, Mickey told Rocky, the worst thing that happened to you,
Yes,
that fighter, is you get civilized.
Yep.
So I was filling out something for Coach of the Year for NHSCA, and it said list like the accolades of team state champions and individual state champs. So when I was looking at individual state champs, the last wrestler state champ we had was 2015. As a coach, I am much smarter almost 10 years later than I was in 2015. But in 2015, we trained more often. We trained with more intensity. We attacked the basics. We didn't have turf at that gym. So all sled work and carries were done outdoors, whether it was 19 degrees or 90 something degrees. And now with a better, you know, quote unquote, better gym, I'm smarter. We have less success. And for parents and kids listening out there, I tell people I've never seen kids do so much stuff, going to all these different coaches and all this fancy training, yet achieve so little in return.
No.
You know, our wrestlers and football players that were winning the most trained in a very, like, I mean, it was basic, yet it was a blend of science and a blend of hell, I call it. It was very tough training. And today, we can't do tough training because I got to leave early because I got to go here. I'm coming a little bit late because I'm coming from here. They don't even eat dinner at home. Dinner is in the car. So there's no brilliance with the basics. There's no simple things done savagely well. And it's starting to have a negative implication on that kind of middle of the ground, middle road athlete who's trying to do a lot of shit, who needs to just have a strength coach and a sport coach and lock in.
Yep. 100% agreed on that, man. That's, again, what goes back to some of my best athletes. It's funny you mentioned about parents and what we talked about over here. Yeah, a lot of it does fall on the athlete, but at certain levels, I mean, if a kid can't get to you, that's a big parent's responsibility. Brooke Kaufman, who's just in here, she took 4th at the Collegiate Nationals in NAIA. She became an All-American as a true freshman, 2-time state placer in the high jump for me. Brooke's parents, one thing, Zach, during the middle of her season, when most parents and kids would say, we'll just wait till the offseason, start with Jeremy. We'll just wait, we'll wait till the season's done, we'll start with Zach. Her jumps weren't going anywhere. She had a broken pelvis from the year before coming over a hurdle because she was that weak. And her parents noticed that her times aren't going anywhere, her jumps aren't going anywhere. We got connected through a mutual friend. She started with me 6 weeks before sectionals had started. And I promised her parents nothing. I said, I'm going to do what I can, but I only got 6 weeks. They could have waited to the end. But in those 6 weeks, she gained strength. She gained confidence. She was stuck in lane 1 at regionals, Zach, which is like, good luck if somebody puts you in there, if you get seated on lane 1. She ended up winning the regionals for the first time in I don't know how many years and qualified for state when she wasn't even supposed to. But in those 6 weeks, we got her stronger. Again, we didn't wait till the off season or when it was convenient. She'd come over dead tired after, practice and stuff. And we came over 2 to 3 times a week religiously. And we got her ready in a very short amount of time. And she credits a big part of that. And again, she was home from college. First thing she was in, back in the weight room with me on Monday, along with Sophia Staple.
Being that you only had 6 weeks with her, did you go right into barbell lifts, or did you kind of try to build her up with like dumbbell work, like goblet squat and chest support row, or how did you start her off?
I started off, she was an athlete, so I started off with just the basics. But Zach, we were squatting 75 pounds the first day for a set of 5. Like it was that bad. And she just didn't realize like how weak she was. She said, again, she's like, hey, this is her first day. She goes, I normally don't bench more than 10s on each side because my shoulders hurt. Well, Zach, I showed her the basics of a setup, which you got to see at the Underground Strength Con. And she goes, and she got up to like a 10 and a 5. And she goes, my shoulders don't hurt benching that way. And no, I stuck with, I taught her the basics on squat, simple linear progressions. We did a lot more systems work, a lot of pull-ups. We had put a lot of bands on there to help her out. Some simple ab work, man, just some simple leg raises, some rollouts, static sit-ups. I just kept it very simple. Like, hey, we're not going to throw a whole bunch of stuff at you. I'm just going to give you 3 or 4 things for lower and 3 or 4 things for upper. And we're just going to get really good at these because sectionals is going to be here in 6 weeks, kiddo. And we're trying to get you for sectionals, regionals, and, state and everything after that. So 3 or 4 things lower, 3 or 4 things upper, linear periodization, make some improvements every single week. Her confidence caught on. She said after 3 weeks, I'm feeling better at practice. I'm jumping higher. My starts are better. Then she really started to buy in. And then we started talking specifically as she got towards sectionals. And she wasn't even supposed to get out of there and everything. She ends up going to state because of that little bit of strength. But everything else, confidence wrapped up, progression wrapped up to it, feeling better, looking better. You put it in there and we got her going really good.
Yeah, girls still have that fear of strength training. They have a fear that they're going to get too big. And I tell girls, look around. You got, 30 boys over there. None of them are too big and too ripped. And so it's not that you're just not going to get jacked. It's not going to happen. But if you get stronger, man, it's like such a secret weapon for athletes, especially girls.
Yeah.
Once they start getting into it, they really do take to it. Last thing.
Go ahead. I was just saying one quick story. We got three throwers in my gym right now. They should all be close to being at state. Maybe one should be a state placer next year. They're still learning, high school girls, and their parents are still learning. But you saw that one video. I had Megan Tomey in from Indiana University.
Yep.
She's their throws coach. She runs the weight room for the throwers. She's their throws coach, 3rd in the nation for Judd Logan. She's in there ripping up a 470-pound deadlift for 3 reps. And all of a sudden, my girls saw that, my throwers saw that, some of their parents had seen that. So they go, holy cow, like, she's, repping it. She could hit over 500 on her deadlift, Zach. And my throwers and my girls and their parents are like, oh, okay, like, they bought into it even more. We actually even had better workouts after seeing the Indiana University throws coach, who's an All-American, studied under Judd Logan, come in here and rip up some serious weights. And they're like, holy cow. I'm like, well, that's why she was an All-American. That's why she's a Big Ten coach at age 30, because she knows what it takes to be the best.
they need that visual, and they need somebody that, like, they might trust us, but when they see somebody else doing it, all of a sudden they're able to connect the dots. I'm gonna shut it down soon. See Mark Philippi there, Coach Mark Philippi, strong man, one of the world's best. Love that.
Yep.
He goes out and trains the Azerbaijan Olympic wrestling team. Somebody had asked a question. I think it'll be good to give a couple exercises. They said, "What's a good back workout for grapplers?" And I always don't think of what is just for back. I think, how do I connect the body to work as a unit? But do you have any exercises that you like to do with combat type athletes, wrestling, jiu-jitsu? I know you were doing some in-house strength and conditioning at a jiu-jitsu club not long ago. So
Yep.
any favorite exercises that you love? You know, Louis Simmons always spoke about carries and Zercher squats. What do you like?
Yeah, we're throwing some of those in. Mine are beginning with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys I'm working with, Zach. So we're starting with basic rows, chest supported rows, bent over rows, heavy dumbbell rows, pull-ups. We went back to down that. But they've never added weights to it and extra resistance. So again, linear periodization, starting them building. A lot of them we had to start with bands, but then over time, now these guys are using 25s, 35s, and 45s. With their pull-ups and everything, I think you can't get thick enough back with all that. Our rows, before they were starting with 40s and 50s, now we're up to 85s on dumbbell rows, chest supported rows. I think those are the basic ones that are going to add a ton of mass. Like you mentioned, just when you're bodybuilding about having to clean and do your military presses with that. So I think anything that you're pulling off the ground, just the deadlift, Zach,
Yep.
anything with heavier weights, progressions on there, they've all gotten thicker. But again, they've all felt better when they were actually out there practicing. They're like, hey, I'm holding guys down. Guys aren't holding me down. That's what I want to hear, and they're noticing the stuff on there. So those are my go-tos, the simples, the basics, higher reps. You got to improve every week. One more rep, 5 more pounds, something where you're always improving on those lifts, and you're going to get a lot better.
You know what's funny is in my school, we have that jungle gym. So I say, hey guys, what's going to get you better? That cable row where you're sitting on your butt. I call it the sit on your butt row.
Oh, yeah.
Or double kettlebell row. Get inside of a trap barn row.
Yep.
What's going to get you better? And it's interesting. I think just people in general want to gravitate towards machines where you're sitting down and laying down. But to get strong, you must be in these uncomfortable situations to make your body react in a way, right? Like I always say, if I'm sitting on my butt, my body doesn't feel a threat. But if I'm standing, I'm in a half squat, my back is locked in, my trunk is locked in, my body is sending a message to the mind, and vice versa. Oh, he's doing these crazy exercises. We must adapt by getting strong so we can handle it. So love chatting it up with you, Jeremy. How can people will be listening to this, not just watching? Where's the best way for people to contact you for coaching and learning?
Yeah, any of my social medias, message me at Hartman, pt1@gmail.com. Look at Hartman Performance Training on Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media outlets. Just message me. I'll get back in touch with you one way or another, and we'll get you helped out and get you fixed.
Very good. We're going to do a seminar somehow, some way out here in New Jersey. You've got one going out to Canada at Fortis, Jim?
Yeah, so Ed Cohen and I are going to be doing that one out there.
What month is that?
So we're scheduling that for May 3rd out there in Toronto. Ed and I are going to go out there and do a big seminar. The owner's a great guy. Met him at the Swiss Symposium. He's bringing a lot of big names: Koklov, Stan Efferding, Matt Wenning, Ed Cohen, and myself. He's really trying to get the word out about strength training. I love the guy. I love the philosophy, and I love the gym setup that he's got out there. So looking forward to doing a seminar with him.
And you're going to do it with Ed? It's a duo seminar?
Yeah, we're going to do that one together. We got some from yours, Zach, the Underground Strength Con. I mean, we made a lot of great connections. We talked to a lot of people about, Skiba over there at Skiba's gym. He was talking about something like that. I talked to a couple other guys about doing some other seminar work too. So a lot of people are seeing the benefit, and they didn't realize the really technical side, how really you can get into this and increase people's lifts, train them safely, and get the results that you need from that part.
Yeah. People that were at Underground Strength Con, a lot of gym owners were like, man, I think we're just going to have Jeremy come in and train our trainers. And those details keep people healthy and training in the long run, like you said. And so what does that do from a business perspective is people will stay with you longer because you get them feeling healthy.
Yep.
They'll actually feel worse when they're doing it the wrong way. So for everybody listening, also go to zachstrength.com, get on the newsletter, get your free training courses. That's where I'll be announcing seminars. I have it up on my whiteboard. Third week in February, we're going to do the SSPC CERT, and then we're going to find a date to get Jeremy out here and do a duo seminar in Manasquan. So it's going to be great. Jeremy, you're the man. Have a great day. Everybody, thanks for listening or watching. Leave a review. Follow Jeremy, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
All right, Zach. Good to see you, buddy.
Later, bro.
Right.
Thank you, buddy. Bye.
Thank you.